Hello and welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman and today I'm going to be sharing with you part number 2 of my Fall 2023 Mystery Quilt. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at part 1 with the PDF and the entire tutorial video, make sure that you do that. I will have that linked below in the description box so you can easily find that. Watch part 1 first and then you can come back here to part 2. This is the block we made last week for this Christmas quilt. And for what I decided to do this year for my Fall Mystery Quilt series, I wanted a new Christmas quilt for my foyer, and so I decided to design one and just offer this as a class for my free mystery quilt classes on my YouTube channel and out on my website. Every spring, every fall, I do conduct my free mystery quilt classes. You can find all of them, the video tutorials, the PDFs of instruction, the patterns, everything you need. It's either you can find it on my website, quiltingwithlori.com, or you can find it on my YouTube channel. They're on both locations. And I'll have links below so you can find everything that you need. So if you have not yet started this Fall's Mystery Quilt, go ahead and do number 1 first. Check that out below, and then come on back to this one, and we'll get started on the block for part 2 of this mystery quilt. Normally for my mystery quilts, I leave you in the dark on what the blocks are going to be. You don't know what they're going to look like until the week that I present them. But this time I decided to do it a little differently. I have given you in the first PDF and in this one as well, you're getting to see what all of the blocks are going to look like for this quilt. You just don't know how they're going to go together in the quilt. So last week we made 5 of these poinsettia blocks. This week we're going to make 4 of these Christmas tree or the Forest Pines Christmas tree block. So that's what we're doing this week. And then these are going to be border blocks. We're going to make, I believe it's 16 of those, and we're making 4 of these corner blocks. So that's what we're going to be making. You just don't know at this point how it's all going to go together in the quilt. So that's a surprise for you. If you are looking for fabrics that you'd want to use for your Christmas tree quilt, I do have links below. It's on my resource tab on my website. It'll take you out to Connecting Threads and out to Fat Quarter Shop, and there's some other resources that I have, EQ8, AccuQuilt, and so forth. But those Connecting Threads and Fat Quarter Shop has some beautiful fabrics out there. So follow those links and just check it out if you're searching for some nice new Christmas fabric or any fabric. They have everything out there that you could possibly want. Or just use your scraps. So every time I do these, I'm not only showing you how to use your yardage, but last week I also showed you, and the purpose of these mystery quilts each spring and fall is to teach you how to use up your scraps. So this one has a lot of scraps that I pulled from my scrap stash, and it turned out very beautiful. So hopefully many of you will use your scrap stash, but if you'd prefer to use yardage, hopefully you'll do that as well. And make sure you post pictures out on my Facebook group page, Scrap Up Your Stash, and I've got a link below. Let's take a look here at some of the things that I have laid out, some of the supplies that we're going to be using. Number 1, the PDF. The PDF is attached in the description box. Make sure that you print out the PDF of instructions, and there's also a PDF of templates that you're going to need to print out. So make sure that you print all of that out, and when you print out templates, be sure that you print it at 100%. Your printer will probably default to fit to page, and if you print these templates at fit to page, then they're going to be too small and they won't work properly for your pattern. So make sure that when you print them that you change the settings to 100%. And so once you print those out, then we are ready to take a look at what we need. I've got some fabrics here that I have already pulled and cut. Some with the fabric strips that I'm going to be using for this block. We're simply going to be using light background. This is my light background. We're going to be using a medium. This is the medium that I plan to use. I actually have a couple of mediums. Last week you saw a little bit lighter medium, but this for the Christmas trees themselves, I'm going to use this. And then I'm also using a dark. And this is going to be for the dark parts of this block. So let's also take a look at something else you're going to want to grab, and that is a piece of template plastic. I got this one at Hobby Lobby. It was $1.99. It's, what is it, maybe 20 inches, 18 inches wide by 12, something like that. But this is the type of plastic that I recommend that you get. You can get these at quilt shops, online. Joann's, Hobby Lobby, you can find them anywhere. And if you maybe even have some kind of template plastic at home that you might be able to use, you just have to be able to see through it. And what I have done here, I've already traced our triangles from our template page on here. And so what you need to be able to do is just lay it over the top of this. Let me see if I can get this to line up. So I've lined this up over template E. And what I like to use for tracing is something called a template marking pencil. I got this years and years ago. It was only $1. I'm sure somebody still makes them. I'll have to look and then put a link below for you. But it's got a waxy pencil, and it works beautifully for tracing onto the template plastic, and it doesn't come off on your hands. Quite often, if you're using some kind of an ink or a roller ball or something, you'll end up with all that ink on your hands and so forth. So I love this marking pencil. It's a template marking pencil. Works fabulous to trace everything out. Now, when you trace out your pieces, make sure, and then there's a large triangle as well. So there's 2 pages in this PDF here. But when you trace these out, make sure that you include the 1/4 inch seam allowance. That's very, very important because we are going to be piecing these together, so we need the 1/4 inch seam allowance. So that dotted line is where you mark. You're going to trace on the dotted line. You're going to cut on the dotted line. And it's important that you include that information on your template plastic. So when you are tracing your templates, you're going to trace on the dotted line, and then you'll cut it out on that, cut out the templates there, and that's basically there, including everything that you see on this PDF. You've got to include that 1/4 inch seam allowance. That's very important. So I've got mine traced on here. I've placed them all together, so I'm trying to make use of my template plastic without wasting too much. I'm going to cut these out with a paper scissors, and then I am going to use these on my strips of fabric, and I'll trace them onto the backs of my strips of fabric to cut out the parts and pieces that I need for the block. As you read your PDF on the bottom here, it's step number 2 of the cutting in directions. You're only going to need to cut 1 8.5 inch width of fabric strip, which I've cut right here, of your medium green or whatever color you intend to make your large trees. And you're going to need to cut 8 of these. We're going to make 4 blocks, and each block has 2 of these large trees, so we need a total of 8 of them. And so here is my template F, which is the large tree. I have placed my width of fabric strip right sides together, and I never use my rotary cutter around the template plastic because it's so easy to cut into and distort the plastic. So then the next templates that you cut are going to be off. They're not going to be accurate. What I like to do is simply take a fine marker of some sort and trace around, and that's what I have done here. I've traced around it, and I'll be able to then use a ruler. Let me grab my ruler here. Put my ruler on that line, use my rotary cutter, and cut it out, and then it's accurate. Now, because these are triangles and they easily fit just like that, I can flip this template F. So I have 2 here. I can flip it, trace another line here. I've got 2 more. This is on the fold, remember, so I've got 2 with every cut. Then I'll flip it again for another 2 and flip it again for another 2. So that will give me the 4 large trees that I need, and I'll have some excess fabric left over from which I can cut other parts and pieces. As you see here, I've used my ruler and my rotary, and I've gone in and cut the triangles apart. So they're all cut apart. I have a total of 8 of them. I do want to cut around these little edges. What EQ8 does when it creates templates for you is it rounds off the ends of each of these triangles. And that just allows you to eliminate some of this excess fabric in the seam allowances. So I'm going to go around and cut some of that away from all of these little triangles. I have it marked there with the pen. You might not be able to see it, but I can see it. And then once I have that finished, then I will be completely ready with my large trees. Then I'm going to go on to the next step. So the next step on your PDF is to cut a width of fabric strip that's 4.5 inches wide from your dark green fabric or whatever dark color you plan to use. And from that, you're going to be cutting, you need a total of 4 of the E-templates. These are the small trees. You're going to need 1 of these for each block. So I have simply placed this on this strip and traced it. And of course the strip is folded, it's on the fold, so there we go, we've got it twice. And there's 4 of them. And then you also need 4 of each of these, the C and the B templates. They're mirror image. So if you have your fabric on the fold, every time you trace one of these, you've actually traced both the B and the C template. And so you just trace it here, and when you cut it, you'll have a B, and the mirror image is the C. So, and you need a total of 4 of those for the blocks. So just simply go ahead and flip those on there, trace them, and cut them out. Now, the thing about my fabric is that it has a grain. As you can see, my trees on this fabric are going up and down this way. So I don't want my tree to be upside down, so I am going to have to actually mark my trees. I think I'll probably just do it on the right side and ensure that I have 4 of them that are all standing up. I don't want my trees going down. I want them all standing up. Actually, it'll be done this way because these are the tops of the trees this way. But that's what I'll need to do. I'll also need to do the same thing with my B and C. So if you have a fabric that you're using that has a nap, and that means there's a direction to the fabric and that you want that direction to go one way, you're going to have to cut a little bit more fabric, and you're going to be using a little bit more fabric as you're individually cutting out each of these pieces. So I've cut out what I need of the dark green. I have a total of 4 of the E templates. These are the small trees, and they are going to be positioned right there in the block. I have a total of 4 each of the C and the B templates. They're mirror image. So one is a B, one is a C. There's a total of 4 of each of those. And they are going to be a B and a C on each side of a block to finish out the row. So those are ready. I've also cut a total of 8 of the 2.5 inch dark green, which I'm going to use for the bottom of the tree here. So I have pulled my light fabric here. This is the light background fabric that I'm using. I have cut a 4.5 inch width of fabric strip. In fact, I've cut a couple of these because I'll probably need all of that. I need a total of, let's see, I think it's 20 of these. Let me take a peek here at mine. Yes, I need 20 of the E templates, and you can see it better if I put it over that B, or the dark green one there, but that's what I'm going to need. I need a total of 20 of these from the light, and they will be positioned here. So there's a total of 5 of those light background triangles that are in each block. So because I'm making 4 of these blocks, I need a total of 20 of those light background E triangles. I'm also going to need B's and C's in the light because they will finish out the rows right there, a B and a C. And I believe it's, let's see, I believe it's 4 of each. Yes, 4 of the light B and 4 of the light C to finish out those blocks. So I'm going to go ahead and get those cut just like we did on the dark fabric. And because this does not have a nap, I can simply flip this back and forth and trace and cut, and I can do the same with these. I don't have to worry about the fabric all being going in one direction. I'm going to save these templates. I'll put them in a baggie, a sealable baggie, and I'll keep them with my pattern so that if I ever want to make this pattern again, I'll have these already cut and ready to go. I have all of my parts and pieces created here and cut out. So I have the large Christmas trees. Actually, I have them the wrong direction here. Let me put them right side out. So there are the large Christmas trees, and here are the light backgrounds They're the shape of the tree, but they're the background in the block, and these are some additional dark trees that will be in the block. I have the mirror image B and C cut from both the light and the dark, and I have the light and the dark 2.5-inch squares that are required. For the dark, you need a total of 8. For the light, you need a total of 16. And now I have everything cut, and I also have my 12.5-inch strips that I need. So everything is cut, everything is ready to go. Now I can start putting the block together. What I'm going to start with in this unit are the end units. So I'm going to start sewing this dark end unit to a light and this dark to this light. And then I'm going to sew this bottom piece to that unit to create half of that triangle unit. Then I'm going to create this triangle unit, which incorporates 4 triangles. One is dark and the other 3 are light. And that's what we're going to put together first. Then we're going to sew this side unit to this tree. We're going to sew this unit here to the center. Then it will be attached to this tree, and then it will finish out on this end here, and that's how we'll put that together. It's going to go together as a row of triangles. So the first thing we're going to do is create this unit, which is right here. That's this unit right there. And it incorporates the light background triangle, a dark side triangle, and then a light side triangle. And so we're going to create this unit right there. And so I've got my, this would be the E template. It's laying in this direction, so the point's at the bottom. And then you need to find the dark half triangle unit that actually fits on that. And then you need to find the light triangle that will match up with that. And what we're going to do is, first of all, place these right sides together, sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance, open that up, and then we're going to attach this one to the bottom. And that's what I have done here. And very simple unit. So that's basically a half triangle unit. So you need to create basically 4 of these, 1 for each of the blocks. Then we're going to do the opposite side. So here was the first unit that we created, and this is on the left side of the block, and this is going to be the right side of the block, and it's just the mirror image, as you can see. So the way that we did it was simply grabbing this triangle again, it's pointing down, find the dark half triangle that matches that, and then find the light background triangle that will match that. This will get flipped over and sewn onto this triangle. You'll sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance, bring it back and press it, and then bring this one and it will be sewn across there. Bring it back and press it, and this is what you'll have, as you can see. And you'll make 4 of these units as well. So we have 4 of these units and 4 of these units. Now we're going to work on the center part. I've laid out the pieces for this center row. We have our end units here. Our right and left end units are finished. They are ready to go. They will be attached to the large trees here momentarily, but not yet. First, we're going to make this center unit, and it consists, as I mentioned before, of 4 triangles, 3 lights and 1 dark. You're going to lay them out just like this, and you're going to start with this unit, and I've sewn mine together. Basically, you place one on top of the other, 1/4 inch seam allowance there, and on that side as well. Just lining those up, stitching them, pressing them. I did press my seams so that they all went in one direction. As you'll notice here, they're all going in one direction. Whatever works and whatever lays nicely for you, but that worked the best for me, to have everything going in one direction. So once this unit is finished, then all you have to do is add these squares at the bottom to this unit. So here is that finished unit. It's not a square, I'm sorry, it's a triangle. We're going to add that triangle to the bottom, so a 1/4 inch, press it, and then we'll have this center triangle unit ready to be included in this row. So let me go ahead and sew that and show you how that's going to look. All right, I have the units ready to go. So this center unit consisting of 4 triangles is ready to go. And in my case, I had to make sure that I cut out my darks so that my trees were standing straight up. But if you don't have a nap in your fabric or a directional fabric, then you don't need to worry about that. And then we're simply going to need one of each of these end pieces. So we're going to sew this together in a row. This will get sewn here, pressed open, and then this unit will get sewn to this triangle, and then this unit here will get sewn to that triangle, and then that will get sewn to the last piece. And that will make up our triangle, our second row of our block, I should say. And I will probably do the same and press all of the seam allowances in one direction. I'm going to sew this row together, and I'll let you know once I'm done here how that works. The center row is sewn. So I have the right and left units here. There's the center unit, and there are the 2 large trees. The only thing we have to do now is attach the 12.5 inch by 2.5 inch strip to the top. Let me pull this down here so that you can see that. So I will put that right sides together, sew that and press it. And then we have this unit down here, which will be the bottom row, and that will include our tree trunks. And I actually cut out these dark green pieces for my tree trunk, but I think I'm actually going to go into my scrap stash, and I'm going to grab 2.5 inch squares from browns, and I'm going to use some brown trunks for that instead. And what we'll simply do is sew this together in little rows. The trunk itself will be sewn between 2 of the light 2.5 inch squares, and then it will be sewn in one complete row, and then that row will be sewn to the bottom. But I am going to switch this out. I'm going to go get some browns, and that's what I'm going to use for my tree trunk. Look what I just found in my stash. It looks like the root of a tree, or the part of the tree trunk. It's a great little piece. I had mentioned in many of my video tutorials that I often receive donations of scraps fabrics from different people, and I definitely, I don't know where this one came from, but it's going to be perfect. Whoever had it had cut something out probably for applique purposes, but I am going to cut some 2.5 inch squares and use this fabric for my tree trunk. I simply pieced all of my 2.5 inch squares like this. So that was one was pieced on each side of the tree trunk. And then all I'll need to do at this point is sew 2 of these units together, right sides together, so 1/4 inch, open it up, and then that will be attached to the bottom of this piece right here. And that will make the bottom of the block, and then the top of it is this 12.5 inch by 2.5 inch strip, which I have pinned, and I'll get that sewn on here. So I'm going to go ahead and sew that last seam there, get this sewn on the bottom, get this sewn on the top, and I'll press it and show it to you here in a second. I've finished my tree block, and I did want to share with you, for the bottom row and the top row, I pressed those seam allowances away from the center. And for that whole center section, I pressed those long triangle seams all in one direction. That seemed to work the best for me. So as long as it lays nicely and flat, that's what you're looking for. So these are done. Square them up to 12.5 inches. And then we're going to be putting them together in the unit. So my tree blocks are finished, and I need to make 4 of these, and we need 5 of the poinsettia blocks. So you're going to have a total of 9 blocks in the center of your quilt. And I will see how that all goes together, and later on. I'm not going to share that with you just yet, but make sure you have 5 poinsettia blocks, 4 of the tree blocks, and next week is the border block. If you're using scraps to make your block, you'll probably want to pull an 8.5 inch scrap or a square to cut out your large trees, and your template should fit on there nicely. You'll have some excess left over for some of the smaller B and C triangles that you need to cut out. So you might be able to get a lot of that on one of the 8.5 inch squares. or if you're looking for the small E template, that's the small tree, that's the dark tree in the center here, you can pull 4.5-inch squares and accomplish that as well. And then, of course, the light triangles, you're going to need 5 of these from a light background, and here is what you could use there. And again, you're going to need some light pieces as well. So I guess you could fit that right there, put this one on there, and cut those out. So you can certainly pull squares from your scraps. These are 4.5-inch squares for the light and the dark, and this is an 8.5-inch square. And then, of course, you'd pull 2.5-inch squares for this on the bottom, and you could pull 2.5-inch strips for this on the top and subcut those strips into 12.5-inch segments. And then you would have everything that you need to create this block. I will try and get one of these blocks that are nice and scrappy. I'll put together for you, and I'll get that photographed, so that will be at the end of the video. I'm so glad that you've joined me for the Mystery Quilt for Fall 2023 as we are making the poinsettias in the forest. Again, make 5 of the poinsettia squares, make 4 of these squares, and next week we'll be working on the border blocks. It's a miniature version of this, which will be a lot of fun. And then the last week we'll be working on these corner squares, and I'll show you how to put all of it together so you can put your quilt together. And then I would love to see photos of completed tops. You don't have to have them quilted, but I would like to see photos from each of you by November 15. If you could email me a photo of your quilt top so that I can put that out on YouTube. I'd like to do a video of all of the students' quilt tops that you have made for this class. And when you send me that, when you email that link to me, and I'll put that email address in the description box below, but please include your full name as well as your city and state and country where you live. That would be very helpful. So I hope you've enjoyed working with me on these 2 blocks. I have certainly enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun. Don't forget to post pictures out on my Facebook page. I'll have links below in that. And if you like the content that I'm providing, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notifications button as well as comment. I love to read the comments from my viewers. Thank you so much again for joining me today. And until next week, my name is Lori Dickman. This is Quilting with Lori, and happy quilting.